Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. The topic this time is increasing productivity through billing. This webinar is hosted by the ABA Legal Technology Resource Center, and speaking today will be Ron Collins from Amicus Attorney. The Legal Technology Resource Center is an ABA member benefit provided by the ABA's Law Practice Division. You can find a variety of legal technology resources on our website at www.lawtechnology.org or our blog, lawtechnologytoday.org. Also be sure to check out the new ABA Legal Technology Buyer's Guide at buyersguide.americanbar.org. Ron Collins is an experienced attorney, a fellow of the College of Practice Management, and an internationally recognized author and speaker on the subject of law and technology. He is also the founder and CEO of Gavel & Gown Software, a company dedicated to providing practice management solutions that work the way lawyers do. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll now begin the webinar.
Thanks, Rose. It's Ron Collins speaking, and thank you everyone for joining me today. It's a real pleasure to be speaking with you. And my topic this afternoon is about increasing productivity with billing. Now, frankly, as an attorney, I don't know many other attorneys who actually enjoy billing. It's one of those things that you need to do. It's how the money comes in. You want to do it, but I always tend to try and find an excuse not to do it. There's always some pressing client matter that's more important that I should be focusing my legal skills on. And as a result, billing is one of those things that brings in the money but often gets avoided. Now, the secret, of course, to bringing in money then is to stop avoiding billing, and the secret to that is to make it faster and easier so that it's a simple job that produces results without taking a whole lot of your time. And that's what we're here to talk about this afternoon. All right, so let's get started and talk first of all about the billing cycle. You all know how this goes, but it's important to think about the stages of billing and what they mean to you, because to improve billing, we really want to look at each of these stages and how we can make them faster and easier. First and foremost, of course, you've got to do the work. You've got to do the legal services, but then you have to record that work. You have to create some time entries that record the billable time that you're putting in for your clients. And then once you've created those time entries, you want to collect them into a billing system, and from those generate bills. Most law firms start with draft bills so that they can review the bills, make sure it's satisfactory for presentation to a client, change it, edit it a bit, and then get out the final version of the bill to the clients. Of course, it doesn't stop there. Just mailing out a bill doesn't bring the money in. All too often you have to follow up about your bills and collect payments. Sometimes it's just opening the envelope with a check in it, and other times it's gently reminding those clients that if they could please send in the work or the money, it would be very helpful. There's another aspect to the cycle that's really important, and it's too often overlooked, and that is periodically to go back and look at what you're billing, what for, and what's more profitable and what's not. That's the analytical stage of legal billing, which can really result in improvements to your practice. So we're going to talk about all of these in a fairly quick process because we don't have that much time this afternoon. I'm showing you what should really be the last slide first, and that is the value that you can generate by doing this faster and easier. If you can track time better, it's going to increase what you can bill for. So obviously that's a good thing if we can talk about how to track time better. And if it's easier to bill, it means you can get your bills out sooner and more regularly. You don't have to wait every couple months or when it really needs it and has to be done. You can do it the end of every month or whenever seems appropriate. And billing easier also means that your non-billable time or clerical time is reduced, and that's a great benefit as well. Now, here's another thing that's been shown in so many studies. If you get prompt and regular bills out to your clients, they are more likely to pay. If you wait a long time till the end of a matter, or worse, until 3 months after the end of a matter and then send out a bill, they're going to wait a long time to pay and likely not pay it in full as well. So getting out a monthly regular bill or a prompt bill right after the end of a transaction is going to increase the likelihood of payment. And then, of course, it also improves your cash flow. Next obvious benefit statement is that if you can track your accounts receivable, or AR as it's often called, know who owes you money, and then have automated reminders that go out to the clients and ask them to please remember to pay. That's going to simplify your collection process, and again, it's going to increase the likelihood of timely payment. Lastly, if you can analyze that revenue as it comes in, you're going to be able to focus your legal skills on the more profitable work that you do, and again, all of this together will increase your bottom line. All right, so we're going to look at each of those and talk about quickly, all right, how can you do that? Because I've promised that in this afternoon's webinar, you're going to go away with some tips and tricks for billing faster, sooner, easier. Recording billable time. It's just annoying. We all know that. You've got to do it. You hate doing it. It's just one of the burdens of legal practice unless you've got pure contingency work. And even then, you probably should be tracking your time. The problem is it's often tracked in different ways and places. Sometimes you put it on a sticky note. Sometimes it's the back of an envelope. Sometimes you have a pad beside your telephone where you write it down, usually. Other times you're away from the office. Sometimes you send yourself an email to remind yourself that you put in a certain amount of billable time, and all too often you don't write it down at all. Or you wait till the end of a day or the end of a week, and then you look back through your calendar and say, what did I do that was billable this week? It's really difficult when you do it in those kinds of ways to figure out exactly how much time you really spent on each activity, and it's really time-consuming to look at all your different notes, look at your calendar, look at your email, look at all your different things, and try and figure out which of them should become a time entry. It's slow, it's inefficient, and it's very prone to errors. The result, of course, is that all too often, a lot of billable work we do never gets into the billing system at all. So we're going to talk a lot this afternoon about realization rates. Your work realization rate is your success in a percentage basis of converting the billable time you actually spend into a billable time entry. And so, of course, ideally, it would be 100%. 100% of all the billable time you spent becomes a time entry for that exact amount of time. Well, we don't live in an ideal world. In fact, most estimates about attorneys' efficiency in this regard is that somewhere between 10 and 35% of the billable time that each of us does never gets recorded as a fee. Those who are up at 10% are the really good ones among us, and most attorneys are 15 or 20, or as the stat says, even 35% of their billable work never becomes a time entry. And that's time, as you can see with that stopwatch falling between the cracks, it is lost. You are never going to get the money that time represents. So what does that mean in hard dollars? Well, 15% is a pretty good failure rate, and if you fail to record just 15% of your billable time, and you work 1,600 billable hours a year, you're losing 240 billable hours a year. We all have different hourly rates, but pick one at random at $250 an hour, that's $60,000 a year that you're losing. That's an awful lot of time to be losing, and as we say, most attorneys are worse than that. So here we come to the good news. How do you make that better? Well, you make that better by using better tools for tracking your billable time. And as you know from my position with Amicus Attorney and the fact that I created it and have had so much help from so many attorneys in designing it, a great practice management system is simply the best tool you can have for recording billable time. And better yet, if you can have a great practice management system which also has mobility tools, things that work on smartphones or tablets or things that will help you capture time wherever you are, makes it even better. All right, some of you are saying, really, Ron? All right, prove that to me. How can that help? And I'm happy to do so. So I'm just going to switch over now into Amicus Attorney. I'm running the Amicus Attorney Premium Edition here right now, and not here to give you a whole demonstration of it. Many of you probably already use Amicus, and for those of you who don't, I'm in the home screen. You can see the different modules down the side. These are the things that I can go to and work with, and this is my very helpful set of reminders that I see when I first come in the morning. Let's just go to my Amicus Attorney calendar. So I have no appointments today. That's great. And here's my list of things to do. All right, let's say I've already prepared this cross-examination. It was due today. It was the first thing I worked on. I'm just going to mark it done by putting a little tick mark in that box. Look what happened. In the background, you can see it was marked done on my calendar, but in the foreground, a time entry was done for me. That's because I have a preference set in Amicus that says, look, when I mark a task done, I want to bill for it if it's a billable task, which means it's on a billable file. And instantly, Amicus did it for me. So a time entry to be billed quickly and easily, and that's our theme, needs lots of information, full client names, matter names, IDs, and things like that. I don't remember them, and all my different files, I try and negotiate good rates with each of my files, so I have different billing rates and rate values for them. It supplies all of that. I can put in activity codes with a click. I didn't even have to type what I was doing because that was already done for me as soon as I marked it done. All I have to do is say how long did I spend preparing that cross-X. Another cool thing to notice as you look at this is look right here, WIP and AR. So this is a time entry on the Burwood and Wright matter, and at a glance, it's telling me I've already got about $3,400 in WIP on the Burwood and Wright matter, and the client already owes me about $6,400 in accounts receivable on this matter. So even as I do that quick instant time entry, I'm getting help with the future billing process, and maybe that's a little reminder to me that I should bill that that matter very quickly. And it keeps working like this. Let's say we've already done that research. Mark it done. There's the time entry. I can just go click, click, click through my tasks as I do my tasks and get an instant time entry. It really doesn't get easier than that. But tasks, all right, you might say is obvious. I know when I sit down to prepare a cross, I might spend an hour, a couple of hours doing that. But the time that falls between the cracks, like that pretty little slide said, is often a different kind of time. And among the biggest culprits for time falling between the cracks are emails, phone calls, and messages, things like that, communications, things you send and receive, and you quickly do them, and then you forget about them, and then at the end of the day you miss them, especially emails you send, maybe an email you send from your smartphone. So you're not even looking at it, it doesn't show up in your inbox, but you sent it, you did billable work, and you want to charge for it. Great. Amicus Attorney can help with that too, because what I'm looking at here is the communications module of Amicus, and this is completely real-time integrated with my Outlook. So when I send an email from Outlook, when I send an email from my smartphone that is tied into my Outlook, Amicus knows that. Oh, and it's going to try and connect to my email right there. That's because for the demo account I've got here a Gmail account. So what I've got here is a list of all the phone calls, messages, and emails that I've got outstanding right now. And you see this little blue icon right here. Wherever you see that in Amicus, Amicus is telling me I haven't done a time entry for it yet. So I had an email from a neighbor. Click, I've done a time entry for it. And again, you'll notice it's all filled in for me. Now the little blue icon disappears from that. One from Philip Agrarian. Click, I've got a time entry for it, and so on. One on the Sydenham from Frank Sydenham. Click, I've got a time entry for it. It doesn't get any faster or easier than that, and I'm doing, collecting billable time really, really quickly and easily. Now I'm going to go back to my office, and you remember at the beginning here we saw that I had a helpful reminder that I have 34 recent activities without time entries. So here's another way in which Amicus can help me, because even if I'm not doing the various things you just saw me do, Amicus in the background, it's integrated with my Outlook. It knows what's in my calendar. It knows what I'm doing. It knows what documents I'm working on. And apparently 34 times recently I've done something without a time entry. All I have to do is click on that, and up comes what we call the Time Entry Assistant. And as you can see, the list below shows my items for the last 3 days for which no time entry is recorded. So I've been working on a document, agreement of purchase and sale. I've made myself a note about reviewing a letter. I've got a lot of emails. And again, I can just pick one, click, do a time entry, and that comes off the list, and I've done one. Or, and this is fabulous, I could just pick a whole lot of them and say, save me time, do them on all of those 8 or 10. And immediately it just does them. And it tells me it's already got one on that file for that date. Do you want to combine them? Sure, I'll combine them. boom, I've just done 10 time entries right away. In other words, with a tool like Amicus Attorney, you can't forget to bill any time that Amicus knows about at all, including any email, phone call, or other such task you perform. Will that get you to 100% realization? Maybe not, but it really, really, really helps. Now we said mobile tools would help too. So of course Amicus has an application called Time Tracker, which is completely part of Amicus. And here I've shown it on an iPhone. It also works on the Androids and Blackberries. And as you can see, you get your timesheet right on your smartphone. That's what the timesheet looks like. When I click the plus sign to get a new one, I get a time entry just like this. And it's all designed for a touch interface. So I can do this all with my thumbs, use the little wheel to roll up the amount of time, and in just a couple of clicks, I've done a time entry wherever I am. So that's why we talk about capturing more billable time, which is a first phase in our improvement process. Next, we want to talk about generating bills. Because as you know, bills is what brings in the money. You've got to gather the time, draft the bills, edit them, send them out to clients. And there are pain points. When do you want to bill? Who do you want to bill? Do you bill everybody every month, or do you bill people at the end of transactions? Do you do it quarterly? And how do you like to present the bills to each client? Because many clients have different preferences. Some like to get them by email, some on paper, some like a very simple format, some like to see every time entry included on the bill. And you've got to remember each of their preferences and give them the appropriate kind of bill. Bills are also legal specific. I mean, you can't use a program like or QuickBooks if you want to do professional legal bills, and I can come back to that. Of course, more pain points are just finding the time to do it and taking the time to do it. So let's talk about that realization percentage again, because once again, if you don't get all the time into a bill, then you've lost the money it represented, even if you manage to record it as a time entry. And all too often, recorded time or time entries do get missed from bills because either it's late, or it's lost, or it was poorly recorded, so you can't figure it out. It could be left out by a mistake in that long manual process, or other such reasons. And again, the statistics from law firm billings indicate that most firms fail to bill at least 15% of their recorded billable time. So now we've got a double loss. And this little chart shows you how impactful that double loss would be. So we're going to stick with our $250 an hour sample rate. And we said in our example, maybe we've worked 1,600 hours for about $400,000 worth of billable time at that rate. But if we lost 15% of that in doing time entries, we'd only have $340,000 worth of time entries. And if we lost another 15% of that in terms of converting those time entries and getting them onto a bill, all of a sudden that $400,000 worth of legal activity is only going to be $289,000 in bills going out. Ouch. That's a big loss, and it's your loss. Most law firms, I mean, I'm using average statistics, most law firms are experiencing exactly this kind of slippage. So how do we fix that? Well, we need to improve that realization rate by having a system that reminds us when we need to bill, that speeds it up, makes it easy, is legal specific, automates all the preferences, lets you bill everybody at once in one big batch, and makes sure clients get their bills quickly. Really? All right, sure. I'll show you. We'll go back to Amicus Attorney. And, I'm going to go to the matter list here, which is the files index. This is my list of matters I'm working on right now, and I'll just open a matter called the Cooperman matter. Here you can see this is all the legal work I do on the Cooperman matter. It's a family law case, and you can see everything from documents, legal research, custom information. That's great, but we're talking about billing. Well, right up here I have a little toggle, and when I toggle to that, my view of the Cooperman matter has switched. Now suddenly I'm seeing all of the billing transactions on this matter. So I have this information at my fingertips no matter what I'm doing. You can see a little summary of the account right down here. So I can see all my unposted and posted time, my WIP, how much I've billed, any write-ups or write-downs. I hope they're all write-ups. How much the client's paid, and Jim Cooperman is a good client. I've got nothing in AR. I can see things like trust ledgers. Here's all the money that's gone in and out of Jim Cooperman's trust account, and that's important, of course, too. And you just can't do this in a non-legal specific file or program. And we talked about how clients have different preferences. So I'll go down here to my bill settings, and you can see for each different client I can set up a different profile and save these profiles and then specify what type of bill do I use. I can have as many different bill templates as I like. What type of reminder statements do I want to use from them? Do I give them a discount? What kind of discount? Jim Cooperman's getting a 10% discount. It can be a flat fee discount or a percentage. Does his bill go out by email? Yes, and his email's there, and it's going to happen. What happens if the fees are greater than a quoted amount? Because I can put in quotes to clients and then respect those quotes as I generate the bills. And if you've ever done that, given a client a quote and sent out a bill for more or less, if it's less, you hate yourself, and if it's more, the client hates you and the phone rings really, really quickly. Managing that and remembering that when you want to speed up the bill process needs to be automated, and Amicus just does it for you. What happens to retainers when you generate a bill? If you've got more than one lawyer, who gets credit for what in terms of fee distribution? Is a minimum retainer balance required so that when you generate a bill and it pulls out of the retainer, do you have to send a request to the client for further retainer? All of that can be saved in one simple setting. All right, so I'm here back in my file index, but it's got a toggle too. So from here, I'll toggle over to the billing view of my Amicus files, and you can see now it's the same list of files exactly. There's a Cooperman matter, but I've now got information like unposted fees, WIP, expenses, AR, and so on. And so, for example, I could sort this by WIP, and I can see that, oh, there's a bunch of files with no WIP on them, but there's some files here with lots of WIP on them. So I'm going to select every file that has $1,000 or more WIP. Just like that, I'm going to say, bill it, please. By right-clicked, chose bill, and it's going to mass bill, and the list is all there for me of who's going to be billed. And I'll just say, apply those settings, please. The details, all of the bills that are to go out are down below, and they're checked or not checked. You can see one draft bill already exists, so it's not going to rebill it for me, which is great. You hate to send two bills at once. And I could send it to final right now. I'll just send it to draft, and bang, that fast, I've done 13 bills, that fast. And here they all are. And again, I can go in bill by bill and check and uncheck manually control, see what the total is going to be, what fees and expenses are going to be included, if there's any transfer coming out of a trust or anything else, what the fee distribution is going to be. I can see this. I can edit any of this because it's in draft. But I just wanted to do this quickly. I'll send it to final. Bang. That fast. You'll notice I got a consolidated bill here because this client has 2 or more different matters, and I've billed all the matters in one consolidated bill. And I've got that many bills just like that. I'll say print and post them. Wow, look what happened when I said print and post. Up it comes and says, well, shall we email them? And it'll email a PDF. And the check marks are clients who've expressed a preference to receive their bills by email. And I can now just go in here and check or uncheck who's going to get them by email. The others will print, and I can send them off in an envelope. And as it says, bills are about to be created and sent to your email draft folder. And if I click proceed at this moment, that's exactly what will happen. All of these will become draft emails. So I get the final click to send in case I want to edit the email or one last choice. But there in, really I think I spent 3-4 minutes on that process. We just billed a dozen matters and brought in thousands and thousands of dollars worth of revenue to our law firm that quickly and easily. So, when I say, can it really be that easy? Yes, it can. All right, the third stage then becomes this. You've got the bills out, you've got to collect. And we all know that, as we said before, first of all, prompt billing, regular billing will make the clients more likely to pay. Another thing is use client funds on hand to pay yourself. So if you've got money in retainer or money on trust and permission from the client to deduct money from trust for your account, then that billing process should just automatically transfer that money. And with Amicus, as you saw, it does. Minimum retainers we saw too. And then you want a system that lets you know when accounts get delinquent and helps you send out reminder statements. So really the reverse of all of that is those are your pain points. And the last one is it's unpleasant. It's unpleasant to chase clients. We don't like doing it. Again, we find excuses not to do it. Wouldn't it be nice if a computer could do it for us? And the answer is, yeah, it can. So this time, just to switch my examples, I've been showing you the Amicus Attorney Premium Edition. I'm going to switch into my browser. And now I'm using Amicus Cloud. So this is a pure cloud-based solution. And you can see just from this home screen, very, very similar to the Premium. Bigger buttons because it's designed for touch interface, maybe use it on an iPad or other such computer. Lots of tiles that are helping me with different things. I have unread emails. I have a lot of deadlines today, phone calls to return. Look at these down here, 10 recent activities without time entries, 12 files with unbilled WIP exceeding $1,000. So it's telling me when I should be sending out those bills. Ooh, this is a bad one, and this is what we're talking about now. I have 28 receivables more than 30 days old. You know what they say about the shoemaker's children and the attorney being the worst at collecting of anyone. Well, all I had to do was click on that tile that said I had those 28 receivables. And what it's done is it's brought up the collection assistant, which shows me all the different files that have receivables more than 30 days old. It shows me the balance owing and the last payment date. That client hasn't paid me since February. That client hasn't paid me since April. All right, that one was June 9th, a little better. They're hyperlinked to the file, so I can go look at any of these files if I want to. And I can see who the primary client is and so on. So I can say the Gallagher will file, they owe me that much money, really? And there's the Gallagher will file. I can review it and say, yeah, they do, and I should be paid. So I can then go into that file and say, you know what? Please, George Gallagher, send me the money. And you'll notice that quickly. I click and say create late payment reminder. It's done an email, and I can edit this, and then the Amicus Cloud actually sends your email right from there. When I click send, that will go. If I want to actually send them the invoice over again, I can just click resend invoice, and it actually picks up a PDF of the invoice I sent them before, attaches it to the email, and sends them a suitably worded email as well, so that all of that is going to go to the client so that they're reminded about the invoice and what it is they have to pay and what's going on. It takes just a second or two longer to pull up because it's pulling, actually in this case, 2 invoices. So I guess this client has been delinquent on 2 previous invoices. It's attached them both as PDFs. Again, I can edit this email in any way I want, add whatever formatting. I can have my own special signature block. I've been very, very simple here. So that kind of process really, and again, it's an email that wants to keep a draft. That really makes it simple and powerful. And I have all of the billing capabilities here in my cloud product that I had in the premium product, or most of them. You can see them all here. Here's a history of billing, payments, and so on. All right, so that made it easier. Now let's go back to our realization percentages. We said that we saw about a 15% loss on marking time or getting time recorded, maybe 15% again on getting it into bills. And it's interesting that, again, the studies say that at this stage, that is to say collecting, most attorneys lose about 15%. They've billed it, but they never manage to collect it from their customers. Sometimes it's worse than that. All right. What does that mean to your law firm? Well, here's what I call the cumulative impact. Let's go back to 230 billable days per year, which is about the average, and 7 billable hours per day, which unfortunately is not the average, and we'll talk about why. You'd like it to be. And that produces 1,610 billable hours per year. Okay, at $250 an hour, that's just over $400,000 in possible revenue. But if you're only going to record, and this is on average what likely most of the people listening to me this afternoon is, you'll only record about 85% of it, bill 85% of what's recorded, and collect 85% of what is billed. And at those realization rates, that means you're only going to receive just over $247,000 from over 402 or 400,000 done. In other words, you're losing $150,000 a year. Now, yeah, maybe a lot of lawyers end up working very long hours and weekends to try and bring that total money received figure up. But when you're losing 150 out of 400,000 a year, there's a better way, and that better way is get the tools which will make it easier in each of those vital phases, as we saw. And no, nobody's promising you perfection, but look at the result if you just improved it by 5%. And you saw how easily I could record time on phone calls, emails, how easily I could get those bills out. I think it's very modest to suggest that you'd improve it by just 5%. But then you'd collect $293,000, or in other words, an investment of under $1,000 in practice management software is going to increase your revenue by over $46,000 a year. If you want to see that in the chart, here it is. So same numbers, just the 402, 500. Here's your fee value. In other words, how much of it gets put into time entries and what the improvement is. So if you just go your normal route, you're going to be collecting 247. But if you can improve by 5%, you're going to be collecting 293 and have made yourself $46,000. That chart, I think, really tells a very, very clear and simple story. And of course, you can play with these numbers. I mean, you don't have to take my numbers. If you think you're better than 85%, and I know many people, I mean, our customers using Amicus Attorney, we did a big survey just a couple months ago of all our customers using Amicus Attorney, had a terrific response rate. And they tell us that they're realizing an increase in billable time of over 5 hours a week. So they're capturing over 5 hours a week, in other words, over an hour a day, extra billable time from the same amount of work using Amicus Attorney. So whatever your hourly rate is, there's a simple formula for its impact. Now, the very last phase we talked about is metrics. And that is analyzing your work and figuring out what's profitable. Because here's where you make your law practice and you better and yourself happier. We all know that there's some kinds of work that you really have to dig into. It takes a lot of time and effort, and clients don't particularly see the value. So it's harder to collect in full on that kind of work, or to even charge in full. You end up writing down a lot of bills in those areas. And then there's other kind of work that the reverse is true, and they're quite profitable. And that's why a good practice management system like Amicus Attorney provides you with a series of built-in reports that allow you to look through by timekeeper, by practice area, or by client what is profitable, what is losing money, and allow you to focus on the good clients and the good areas of work so that you can make decisions about your law practice to improve its profitability. So, realization rates, practice management is going to have a big impact on your revenue and profit by improving those realization rates. It's going to help you capture more billable time. It eliminates manual processes. It eliminates a lot of administration. And it frees up that time to service clients. That's another key thing. If you're not writing bills in a non-billable activity, you can be doing billable work for your clients. It's legal specific. Proactively tells you when you need to send out your bills or to do your collections. It helps you do that, and then it helps you with your decision making. So that was pretty nearly precisely half an hour. I apologize for going so quickly through it, but these webinars are meant to be short and punchy. I hope I've shown you some tips and tricks for making billing faster, easier, and getting it out sooner and getting paid sooner using practice management software. I'd be delighted to take any questions you may have about anything I've talked about this afternoon.